Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Machine Builder, and today I'll be teaching you how to create your own custom directional blocks. In this tutorial, you'll be learning how to create a block like this, which can face you in any four directions, but not up and down. Obviously this is just a furnace, and we'll be making something else, but just like this, it can face in four directions. So let's get right into it. Okay, so first things first, go over to your behavior pack and you should have this structure. So you need a blocks folder, your manifest and pack icon. All we really need here is a blocks folder in the behavior pack, and for the resource pack you want models and then blocks, and then you want the text folder, you can ignore this, and you want textures for your block textures. So first things first, we're going to make this block, call it chair.json. Open it up in any code editor. You can probably do this in Bridge, but it will be a bit confusing just because it's different than what you'll be seeing here. Alright, so we have the block file open, and first thing we want is a format version, so 1.16.100 for that, and then we want Minecraft block, which is how we set up blocks normally. This is just the same thing I did in the other custom blocks video. So identifier, and then set this identifier to whatever you want your block to be called. You need a namespace and then a colon and then some name. For this chair, and then you need to set up properties for this because we want this block to be directional, so it needs to be able to obviously face different directions. So I'm going to set up this facing direction, and again this namespace is whatever you want it to be. I'll just set it to MB, so that's Machine Builder, and directions 0, 1, 2, 3. This basically allows this variable to be any one of these options. You can also use strings, so you can make it like north, south, east, west, but then that's just more confusing. So it's easier like this. You can also use booleans, so true, false, if you want something to be either on or off. But again, this is much easier. So these are all the properties we need, because it's just storing one direction. Now I'm going to set up permutations, which is how the block actually reads these properties and changes its components based on them. This should be a list. There we go. First one, condition query.block property. And this one is basically querying this, like what we put here. So this query will read the value of this variable, and if it's equal to 0, then we add components, rotation, and this should be 0. I can probably just do that 0, 180, 0. So basically when this variable is 0, the rotation will be this value, which is x, y, z. We want to rotate around the y-axis, which is up vertical in Minecraft. So we'll just set that to 180 degrees. I'm pretty sure that's correct, but we'll see later. And if it's not correct, we'll just adjust it. This one will be 0 degrees. 2 will be 270 degrees. And then 3 will be 90 degrees. I'm pretty sure these are all the angles, so if they're not, we'll just fix them later. Now after permutations, we want components, and then we also want events for that. And inside components, you're going to put a destroy time. Don't need this to be very high, it's just a chair. So 0.6 seconds. And then you can set up some material instances. So this basically defines how the block kind of renders in game. So you're going to pick your texture, which I'll just call MB for chair. Call it Machine Builder. Machine Builder underscore chair. And then render method. I'll set this to alpha test. There are a few render methods. These are the render methods that you can use. These four. I think there might be one more, but it is not useful. This is opaque, just the normal block. Ambient occlusion, so like the shadows around it. Alpha test allows you to have like fully transparent or fully opaque pixels, so not like half opaque. It also disables ambient occlusion, which is good if you want like a chair, as we're doing, because obviously you don't want shadows under that. Blend is basically like alpha test but with any transparency level, so you can have like stained glass. And double-sided is just a blending material without backface culling, which basically means it shows both sides of the block. So if you have a very, well, basically it'll show the inside of the block texture as well. It won't remove the back faces. So we're going to use alpha test because that's the one that fits this situation the best. And now after material instances, we want block light absorption. Pretty sure that's spelled correctly. 0.0, so it absorbs no light, so light can pass straight through it. I think you can leave this as 0 actually. Minecraft geometry.chair. And you can set this name to whatever you want, but remember it for later, because we'll be using this name. Minecraft loop, we don't actually need that, the default drops itself. So we need explosion resistance, we do need pick collision. This is the size of the outline box that appears around your block. So for now I'm going to set this to just this, and then we'll fix it later. Graph entity collision. We'll leave that there as well. And then we need a Minecraft on player placing event set placing rotation, and then events, I'm going to use that name. Basically this listens for when the player places the block and then runs this event. So in this event we're going to set block property, and then mb facing direction, and we're going to set it to query.cardinal facing 2D -2, so we need the spaces. Alright, and here you can tell the query.cardinal facing 2D returns the current facing of the player ignoring up and down. So basically this just returns north, south, west and east, depending on the rotation of the player. So this is what furnaces use, I'm pretty sure, or something similar, but that's how they get placed in only 4 directions. So we have this, and basically if you saw from before, it returns a 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. So if I just -2, that means that 2 will become 0, 3 will become 1, and as you can tell we have 0, 1, 2, 3. So instead of having, we could always do this, we could do 2, 3, 4, 5, but instead we're going to do 0, 1, 2, 3. Just because that's easier, so we just subtract 2 from the value here, and that way 2 will become 0, which is what we want. And so that should actually be the whole block set up already. So now we can go up to our resource pack, models, blocks, and in here we have nothing. Alright, so we're going to need to make a model for our block. So we open up Blockbench, and then file, new bedrock model. And then we don't need to set any of this just yet, we'll do that later. Doesn't really matter. Well, you could have done it there I guess, but anyway. Alright, so we're going to make a cube. Since I'm making a chair, I'll design it like this. This will be the base of the chair part, and I guess I'll lift it up to 1 block. I'll quickly make this block, position, -8, 16, or further away, 16 by 16 by 16, and this is just a reference block so we can see how big a block actually is. I'll put this behind here. Alright, so that's how big 1 block is, so I want this the same height to line up there, and that should be good for that. And now I can make the chair legs. I don't want them to look too thin, so I'm just going to make them like this. Okay, so here is a good enough chair for my liking. Seems like it should look good in game, and also make sure it's facing north. Probably should have mentioned that. North is always the way you want to align your models so they're easier to rotate later. By the way, another thing, if you add a group and you want a cube to be rotated in the group, do not change the pivot point of this group. It must always stay at 0, 0, 0, because otherwise the game gets a little confused and does weird stuff. But just move it around like this, and then you can position it manually like this. So to get exactly where you want, you can just do that, but don't ever change the pivot point of the bone. Alright, so once we have our model all set up, we can press create texture, tick template, and now confirm, and then we get this, which is basically the whole texture already kind of made for us. So I'm just gonna get a brown, and then I'll be right back. I'll probably make this into a time lapse. Okay, now that I have this texture set up, I'm actually just going to save the model quickly. So just Control S. Okay, so first things first, you're going to notice we're saving the texture. So I'm going to go into Textures, Blocks, and save this as chair.png. And the next thing, we're saving the model. So I'm going to go into here, Models, Blocks, and chair.geo.json. And there we go, so now we can close Blockbench because I'm done with it. And over here, back in the resource pack in the models folder, we have this new chair.geo.json file. So I'm going to change this geometry identifier to the one we set up here just before, geometry.machinebuilder.chair. There we are. So now we link that geometry file, and now we have to set up the texture linking. So over here, textures, oops, wrong folder, textures, terrain texture. This one we have to set up to actually link the texture data. So machine builder underscore chair, just whatever you name the texture in the material instances component, just copy that name and put it into terrain textures, and then just get the textures, and then you have to link the textures path. So textures / blocks / chair, I think I called it. Textures blocks chair. Yes. So that's the terrain textures done, and now we have to actually set up the block part of it. So blocks.json, and this is where you can define sounds for your block, so I can make it sound like wood, because obviously it's a wooden chair. So machine builder chair, so that's the identifier of my block, machine builder chair, and then we're going to set up textures, machine builder chair, which is the same name we used in terrain textures, and it's also the same name we used in material instances over here. So now we're going to sound wood. There we are. So now we are making the chair sound like a wooden block. Okay, so now that we've set up the sound for our block, we basically have the entire block set up, apart from the text. So I'm quickly going to open text folder, and then n_us.lang here, and we have to define the tile name. So we have to link the tile name. So tile.machinebuilderchair dot name equals chair, if I can spell. There we are. So that's what we want here, and we can close that, and we should just be able to open up Minecraft and go straight into the world, and we should see the chair in game. Obviously the pack needs to be applied to the world, and the holiday creators custom thingo needs to be enabled. And already we have some weird message. We got this message warning thing here. Chair contains 3 boxes outside the warning bounds of -0.5 to 1.5. Honestly not sure why that keeps happening, but I get that a lot. I think you can just not worry about it. Machine builder chair. And we have this very tall chair, and as you can tell, the hitbox for this chair, there it is, right there, which is obviously not what we want, because you can hardly reach it and you can just walk straight through it, and it is a very big chair. But if I can find it, there we go. We're going to edit that hitbox now. Okay, so what you can do, you can just open up your geometry file. Okay, so with the model open in Blockbench, First thing I noticed actually is that these bones are actually above the one block warning area, which is why we got that warning in game. But you don't need to worry about it because it's just a warning thing. Doesn't really matter. But what we're going to want to do is add a cube, and this cube is going to be where our hitbox is. So I'm just going to scale it up to this size, over here, and over here, and it has to fit within one block. So I'm going to put it about there. And by the way, I had moved some of these parts around to make the chair slightly smaller, so it's not as big in game. And these position values, -7, 0, -7 is what we want for the hitboxes. So we can now open up these hitboxes over here. And the origins, -7, 0, -7. And then the collisions, the sizes for it, will actually be 14, 15, 14. So we're just going to set that, 14, 15, 14. And now we can open up the game again. And we should see it's all fixed apart from that warning error. There's not much we can do about that, because that geometry just does go above a block. Okay, and in game you can see the hitbox is where we put it, kind of. I don't think I actually saved this model, which is why, because it should be just above this part. So I'm just going to delete the hitbox, save the model, and now bring back the hitbox, because obviously you don't want to save the model with the hitbox because you have a random block in the thing. But now if we refresh the game, so over here you can see hitbox is exactly where we put it. And you can jump on the chair, walk over it, you can walk through the backrest though, but that's because hitbox sizes are limited to one block. And another thing you might notice is this is a directional block. You can place it in any of the 4 directions, just like a furnace. So if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and please do share the video as well because it helps out my channel a lot. But yeah, so thank you for watching. I hope you found this useful. Leave a comment if you did, and also leave a like and hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.